Let me introduce our panel. We're thrilled to have, after a long time, our old buddy, our colleague, DJ Jazzy Joe, or as you people know him, the Constitution geek Meghnad. In the studio also is Manisha Pande. Hi, Manisha.
Hello.
And joining us from Zoom is Jabin Jacob. He's Associate Professor at the Department of International Relations and Governance Studies at the Shiv Nadar Institute of Eminence.
This sort of brings me to the question about what is the difference between the Chinese and the West. I mean, others are doing it, so what's the big deal with China? So number one, there is no reciprocity. You can't do the same
in China. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
What happens is the Chinese journalists will interview the Indian ambassador
and spin it.
Always, sanitized version that goes out there. I mean, I've been interviewed in China in Chinese, and what came out was an overlay of some other voice saying in Chinese things that I didn't say. So that's how the media operates there. That's one, reciprocity.
I mean, I just think that the power of the BJP wields with having dominated this entire news ecosystem, they can make anything that is an indiscretion seem like, big
it's
grind.
A phenomenal hold. And most of the discussions around is not again specific to ethics or transparency in media. It is this mass of anti-India gang, which this one story, and the irony of it that these guys are still a few months ago, just the only time they mention New York Times is when they want to say New York Times is trying to destabilize India. And this time they're like, New York Times mein aaya hai.
And I think that is the crux of the problem that Western news outlets such as The Economist or any American outlet has. I mean, it's not so much a statement about China only, it's also a statement about the Western world, as it were. One thing you ought to notice is that India doesn't appear in the picture much in these discussions about China or China in the United States.
No, but we are Vishwaguru, please. Just FYI. Like I said, would you rather have a world where the dominant power is US, or would you rather have a world where the dominant power is
China?
Or China?
Yeah,
I mean, at least a Trump can be thrown out for an election, so can a Biden. I mean, flaws as America is, it's a no contest.
They have institutions which are actually functional and
they
independent.
China is G is China. Russia is Putin is Russia. That's.
And it's sad that increasingly, I don't know where India fits in.
There was supposed to be discussion about Manipur and many other things. Instead, it became about flying kiss and this huge. But I mean, I was shocked.
Yeah.
That was the ticker. That was the prime time discussion. That is what
Flying
intellectuals. Flying kiss can't really. Is that what
and
it's
then
called?
they're like, Rahul pehle aankh marte hue paaye gaye.
हाँ, फिर hug करते हुए पाए गए.
And the funniest thing is, this is just priceless. Amish Devgan comes on TV and he says कि hug करते हुए इसे आप हिंदी वाला hug मत समझिएगा. He actually said that. I was like, dude.
What is that?
Of course not. But that's the level, and it's really sad because it was supposed to be on Manipur, this whole thing. And I mean, I don't know, what do you think of Rahul's speech?
But Monsoon, I mean, I haven't seen Rahul's speech, but from what I hear, it was underwhelming. But yesterday there were 2 or 3 bills passed by voice vote.
So I will tell you.
Welcome to Chhota Hafta. Now, Chhota Hafta is but a small, chhota version of a complete weekly podcast, Newslaundry Hafta. The Newslaundry Hafta is where you get the week's news, what made the headlines, what didn't make the headlines, but the full version is available to subscribers only. And I don't mean YouTube subscribers, although YouTube subscribers are also very welcome, very, very grateful to you, but also to Newslaundry subscribers, the paying subscribers who pay to keep news free. So you can also become a paying subscriber by clicking the subscription link. Now, what do you get if you're a paying subscriber? You get access to all our paywall content, all interviews, podcasts, and importantly, you get access to a full unedited Hafta, where you not only get to hear the week's news, but you get to hear the Newslaundry editors' positions on matters. You get to see their biases, what are their prejudices. It's an exercise in transparency while also informing you, and we have a few quips and jokes and agreements and disagreements thrown in. So listen to the full Hafta, subscribe to Newslaundry, and pay to keep news free. Here we go.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta. We are recording this on the 10th of August 2023, which is a Thursday at 3 p.m. At 4 p.m, the Prime Minister is going to be addressing the Parliament. He's going to be gracing the Parliament with his presence after a long time.
Yep.
So we will not catch what is happening there because we are recording this during that time. Before I introduce the panel, I would like to tell everybody that we have an Independence Day campaign. from the 5th of August to 20th of August, you can celebrate the spirit of independence with Newslaundry. You can get specially curated hampers of merchandise, and we have some fantastic merchandise. There are caps, there's comic books, graphic novels, mugs, these stickers that you see on my laptop. And this not only supports journalism, but it also announces that you're someone who keeps journalism alive and a part of the community that is upholding the values of democracies and liberal democracies. So you can order this, send it to friends and family.
You also get a subscription with it.
Yes, you get a
You
subscription.
get access to the full episode of this hafta and many other things.
And many other things, exactly. So there are two hampers. One is a 2200 rupee hamper, one is a 5200 rupee hamper. You can click on the link in the show notes below, or you can go to newslaundry.com and order specifically from there. I do hope you will contribute. Thank you so much for topping up our Manipur Sena project. We had 3 of our colleagues there,
They're still there. They're going to come back this week.
and they have sent us some excellent reports, all thanks to our subscribers, because we don't depend on advertisers. And we have one more Sena project that is up, which is Himalayan blunders on the climate crisis and the extreme weather patterns that are causing devastation in the mountains. Hridesh Joshi, one of the finest climate journalists in the country, has made one trip there already. He's back. You guys have topped it up. Well, you haven't topped it up. It's 50% or 55% topped up. I'm hoping by the time you hear this podcast and by the end of the day, you would have topped it up completely, because we need your support, because we do not take... Let me just, indulge me. Today's Thursday. Wednesday, I sat in the morning, like all uncles, I start my day with the newspaper. Front page, there was an ad of Mr. Baghel. I opened the second page, was a full page ad of Modi ji and Yogi ji. Third page was a full page ad of Bhagwant Maan. I was like,
Wow.
kaddu katega to sab mein batega.
Except us.
So that's the public service news, and that's how it's financed, just so you guys know. So this week was all about
Probably got
Parliament.
more mention than Manipur, Newsclick.
Yeah, Newsclick got more
yeah.
than Manipur. But this week was all about Parliament, and it was a very political week.
Yeah.
But coming to what the Hafta is about, we are going to be discussing Parliament, of course, but first China, and no better expert on China than Jabin. So this whole Newsclick thing, dominated much of headlines in prime time, and we had channels that are run almost, entirely on government advertising, lecture the viewer about independence, etc. But this specific Newsclick case, where I don't think even Newsclick disputes that they got money from those entities, which now trail back to Singham. Is this a part of something that China has been doing consistently? And if it has, do you think it's failed quite miserably? Because, Korea has been more effective at importing their technology and pop culture and their narrative than, China, with all the crores they're spending, or billions.
Yeah, well, there are, 2 parts to this. One is, of course, the nature of Chinese influence operations, as the Americans put it. And second, the effectiveness of that operation, and especially in the context of India. To start with India, I think, in India, this is, to my mind, has hardly ever been effective for 2 reasons. One, because of ignorance. We are simply, the population at large is simply disinterested or ignorant about China. And it is, most of our attention from a foreign policy angle would be taken by Pakistan, right? So that's the comfortable or the familiar problem, or the enemy or adversary, call it what you will. To talk of effectiveness, what's happened in Nepal and Sri Lanka is that, the Chinese come in. I think the people are beginning to realize that when Chinese come in, you might not want to blame the Chinese for the debt trap that Sri Lanka is facing. But there is a certain descent in political accountability when the Chinese get involved economically in some of these
Why do you
countries.
think it's the contagion of strong men, or what is it?
It is the nature of the Chinese model, right? It is a model in which political elite communication is much more important than public accountability or paying attention to popular will.
Do you think that, because I saw this equivalence being made on some primetime shows, that you guys are running on BJP ads and you're doing BJP propaganda.
Yeah.
So that guy, is that equivalence fair, or does it matter? It's from within the country, outside the country. Your take on this whole thing, Meghnad.
I don't think it's anything wrong to take money from the Chinese government, honestly, but you need to be transparent about it.
Sure.
Like, you need to also tell people, listen,
This is where we get
this is where we got the money. And I mean, in the stories itself, you should keep a disclaimer under there.
Just
or
like
something
when we
of
used
that
to do the media rumble, we said Google gives us money, or the US State Department gives us
Absolutely. If you're reporting on China, then you give that disclaimer in the end, which is that a part of our funding comes from XYZ place, which is connected to the CCP or whoever this fellow is, right? That is okay, according to me, right? But then, because I look at it as an advertorial then.
Right.
Nothing else. But if you are not doing that, then that raises questions to me.
I think there are two aspects to it. The legal aspect of it, which is there are FDI norms that govern investment in media. So you have to look at whether they have flouted those norms or not, whether this is on paper or not. So, and remember the last time, this whole thing of black money, money laundering. So there's investment coming in from a businessman. But do you extrapolate that to say कि money laundering हो रहा है, black money हो रहा है? And the last time we saw this kind of hoo-ha around a media company on black money and money laundering was NDTV, where an opaque transaction that involved Reliance and the Roys was used to whip up this frenzy around hawala money and money laundering. And then that very transaction helped Adani take over NDTV, and now no one talks about it.
And today NDTV is running tickers like, after Amit Shah dragged opposition over coals, the grand finale today, Modi to address parliament. That's the NDTV.
So legality of that has to be checked. The ethical aspect of it, I think that if you're taking money from this gentleman who has very close ties, we don't know if he's on the payrolls of the Communist Party, but very close ties, you have to have a disclosure. You can't call yourself independent media. About Us page cannot be, we are independent media supported by members.
You think they followed Meghnad's advice even before he gave it, that spending and pushing a media narrative is a waste of money? Because US has been doing it for a while. Al Jazeera, Qatar, etc. Everyone does it. China's never really done it, but they haven't really lost anything by not doing it. What do you think?
See, this media narrative, you can't be a communist party or one-party state without paying attention to narrative. So we don't realize it here, but the Chinese Global Television Network and the China Radio International are international in scope. And by the way, they also broadcast in Indian languages.
Oh, really?
In the case of India, Doordarshan and All India Radio, we've actually, if you look at the All India Radio's world service, foreign language service, I think the maximum any language goes to is 2 hours. We've got half-hour services in Pashto or whatever. So, in fact, over time, it has declined. The Chinese are expanding.
What is the influence that they're doing? No negative news about China, I understand. Don't print.
I think it's a very fundamental thing that liberal democracy is not the best governance model. That is, everything comes down to that.
Right.
Whether it is economic progress, whether it is anything else, that liberal democracy is not what is the most desirable economic model for justice, for fairness, for anything. And I think that as far as
democracy,
our elected representatives are also saying the same thing.
And as far as this whole noise is concerned around this whole Newsclick thing, while the reciprocity argument I think is the most compelling one I've heard, and it's so obvious, I'm shocked that none of us even thought about this. But I guess we don't know how China operates.
If I'm refusing to condemn what China is doing, which means I'm a communist sympathizer. Communism is cancer, which means Mamata Banerjee is cancer, which means West Bengal is, killing
Mamata
women.
And it's just the left. Whatever you may think of her politics today, she's rivals with she fought on the streets against the left.
It's bizarre, right? At the leaps that happen after that.
It need not make any sense.
Yeah.
It's a free for all.
But so I think that is what Arnab and people do, right? Which is they bring up this one little story of Newsclick, whatever kitna bhi paisa diya hai, and then they blow it up so much until it becomes the all opposition is involved in this conspiracy theory that is going on. And that is what they do with everything. Even that flying kiss thing, it's what is this nonsense that is happening?
Being debated on primetime on a no confidence motion on Manipur. It's just sad that this was the lead across channels yesterday.
So let's move to the Parliament, which was the other big story of the week.
Bunch of important bills that passed. The one that came up today, the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment conditions of service and terms of office bill. It came up today morning.
Yeah.
It was introduced. What it essentially does is the Supreme Court had said that the CEC would be chosen by a panel of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice. This bill basically changes that and makes it Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Union Cabinet Minister nominated by the Prime Minister.
So what is that?
So basically now the opposition leader is pointless. Like it's like 2 votes to the Prime Minister, and Chief Election Commissioner and all other commissioners will be chosen by this.
There almost 15 minutes of, Rahul Gandhi's speech, you can just see the speaker smiling, his beatific face.
That's true.
Farooq Abdullah, one of the most senior-most leaders, has, very articulate voice. He's raging on in parliament and you see the speaker. Kanimodi, again, you see the speaker. You just do not see the opposition guys.
Oh yeah, Kanimodi, I was very surprised. I was like, who is speaking? It was that level.
At point, if you just tune in, you have to guess who's speaking from the voice.
Yeah.
So with Farooq Abdullah, I could guess, obviously, it's very prominent. But it is just bizarre that the camera is just focusing on the speaker and there's the opposition speaking. And you can see a clear difference when an Amit Shah speaks or a Smriti Irani speaks. Focused attention of the camera on the BJP guys when they're speaking. And that's, of course, because what has started happening with a lot of these opposition leaders. Modi is not the only one who's using this for election speeches. Now, a lot of opposition leaders want to use parliament to communicate to their audience.
Yeah.
Because videos can go viral. They figured that out. Because the moment Rahul Gandhi speaks, Brute will pick it up and, they'll do it tore into whatever, Adani and all that. They want to deny that. Obviously, there's no other reason to this.
Yeah.
On why you're not seeing Rahul Gandhi when he's speaking. But it is very, very bizarre. It's the most bizarre thing.
She's the one who brought this up कि अरे ये अभद्र व्यवहार किया इन्होंने flying kiss देते हुए चले गए वगैरह वगैरह. The funny thing is, so she said this and then news started. News media started. Nobody could find a video. I was also wondering why is there no video
of this.
And then they found like a very random video, and news at that point was reporting कि उसने स्मृति ईरानी को flying kiss दिया.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Because even I thought, and then later I realized he just left this with this flourish.
Yeah, he left with a flourish, and I think he was just pointing and saying कि मुझे बोलने नहीं दे रहे हो, मैं जा रहा हूँ.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, he's like मुझे बोलने नहीं दे रहे हो, जा रहा हूँ. So then there was this letter that was given to the speaker by
All
women
BJP
MPs. And it had a few MPs. And Hema Malini's sign was on it. And later she came out of parliament and said कि मैंने तो देखा ही नहीं. ये हो क्या रहा है?
It's a joke, and it's governance in this country has become a joke, and it's shocking to what extent news has been complicit in making it so. I mean, it's so worrying. It is disgraceful.
And I feel like they were just looking for this one nonsensical
Distraction.
thing.
It's
that
all
they could
distraction.
pick up.
How can we distract?
Yeah.
Make a noise about everything. I mean, it's clear. We are in that zone with your news peddlers. It's clear.
बस मुफ्त में इतना ही मिलेगा. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to Newslaundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to the Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the Newslaundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that Newslaundry is trying to encourage, where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to Newslaundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.